There's been a video that's gone viral on YouTube that has generated millions of hits called Why I Hate Religion But Love Jesus by a man named, I believe it's Jeffreson Bethke is how it's pronounced. In any case, in the video, the difference between a perceived personal relationship with Jesus and legalistic adherence to doctrinal rules are contrasted. On the face of it, it seems like a positive celebration of the values of compassion and kindness that can be found in the Gospels, regardless of creed. Heck, the man is really, really talented, and I can respect that. And even when I was a Christian myself, I felt that the body of Christ was way too latched on to the Republican Party and the conservative right in the United States. So at the start of the video, we have what seems to be a positive affirmation of the principles of kindness and tolerance. But that is not what it really is. What Mr. Bethke is promoting is the absurd and insulting doctrine of sola fide, or faith and grace alone, as the key to salvation. In the video, he starts off by saying that Jesus came to abolish religion, but in the Gospels, Jesus is alleged to have said that he came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And he also said that until heaven and earth pass away, not a single jot or tittle of the law will vanish. The problem with talking as if Jesus and religion are in direct conflict with one another is that according to the very theology that is being espoused, Jesus is the author of the silly, legalistic, and petty laws that can be found in the Pentateuch or Torah. I assume from his advocating of sola fide that he is, in fact, from one of the Protestant denominations, and thus I assume he is a Trinitarian. So according to that theology, Jesus is an avatar of Yahweh or Jehovah, who is the very being who is said to have inspired and dictated the numerous laws of Moses. This detailed and strict set of rules and guidelines is the epitome of everything Jefferson claims to be against. It is petty, comically illogical, and at some points, at its worst, incredibly cruel. You can say that Jesus was all about grace and forgiveness, but if you are a believer in the Trinitarian implications of the Gospels, particularly the Gospel of John, then one has to admit that Jesus, the same Jesus who told the stuffy Pharisees and Sadducees that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, is the very same entity who over a millennia earlier in Numbers chapter 15 had a man executed via stoning for the small infraction of picking up twigs on the Sabbath. Later on in the video, there's a reference to so-called sexual sins like viewing porn and fornication. And this is an issue that to me underlines why Christianity first needs to break people's self-esteem with doctrines like original sin and total depravity. Christianity and a few of the other religions need to convince us that the totally normal and healthy human sex drive is either inherently wicked and in need of combating or corrupted because of the absurd concept of original sin, which even many in the clergy now reject. But the bigger issue is this. Who made the rule that it was a horrible sin to look at another person with lust, to even think of them that way in your mind? If you answer that it was God, and thus Jesus Christ, then you are admitting to the fact that it's not religion that is the cause of the infection, but Jesus, who then sells you the cure in the form of complete and total obedience or slavery to him. It's only the illusion of freedom. To quote St. Paul, you have been bought with a price, you are not your own. Speaking of Paul, whose letter to the Romans is cited at the end of the video, the man is alleged to have created all kinds of rules and regulations for the churches he planted, including telling the church in Corinth how they are to conduct themselves in the observance of Holy Communion, how women should pray with their head covered, and men should pray with their heads uncovered, and of course that the ladies should just shut up in church and know their place. Some ideology of liberation, right? I mean, how wonderfully freeing. In his alleged letter to the Church of Rome, which again was cited at the end of the video, Paul props up the wonderful rules of the Pentateuch, legalism and all, to show us why we can never fulfill it and need Jesus to come rescue us. In other words, God/Jesus has set us up to fail, and the only escape hatch he has given us is, from his all-consuming wrath, is believing in him without question and serving him all the days of our lives. I appreciate the honesty and sincerity of this video, Jefferson, but let's not kid ourselves. The concept of salvation through faith in grace is not liberation, it is extortion. Put simply, tell your church and your pastor that you plan to discontinue giving 10% of your monthly income to them in their tithes and offerings, and see how many points you score with them by appealing to concepts like unconditional love and grace.